Hello friends, welcome back to your UPSC. Today in Geography of India we are going to complete the last part of natural vegetation and wildlife. So let's get started. So today in natural vegetation and wildlife we are going to cover wildlife of India. Okay? So wildlife is actually it constitutes of fauna. Okay? Every animal, bird, insect, vertebrates, invertebrates, everything. Okay? Which are living in forest, who are living in forest, they comprises of wildlife. And as we have variation in our forest, we have variation in Indian forest because of variation in relief features, variation in climatic conditions. Okay, so because of this we have great variety of wildlife in India. Like we have about 90,000 species of animal, including both all these animal, birds, and insects. Okay, which is about 6.5% of the total species of the world. Okay, so all this 90,000 species, okay, these 90,000 species, in these species of fauna, we consider invertebrates. Invertebrates are 6,500 species of invertebrates we have. Then 5,000 species of mollusks, 246 species of fishes, 2,000 species of birds, 458 species of reptiles, 4 species of panthers, and over 60,000 insect species are present in India. Okay, so we have huge variety of fauna in India. Talking about the key wild animals, we have like elephant. Elephant is the largest Indian mammal which is found in large number in vast forest tracts of India. Okay, we can find them in the forest of Assam, West Bengal, and Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. The next one is one-horned rhinoceros. One-horned rhinoceros is the second largest mammal, and it is found in the Indo-Gangetic Plain. As far as West Rajasthan is concerned, till West Rajasthan and whole of the Indo-Gangetic Plain, it is found there. Next one is our Arna. Arna, they are wild buffaloes. Okay, they are found in Assam and Bastar district of Chhattisgarh. Then next we have Gaur. Gaur or Indian Basin. It is one of the largest existing bovine. Okay, and it is found in the forest of central India. So after that we have tigers, cheetahs, panther, lynx. So they are the important species that are found in India. Along with it, we have yak, deers, monkeys, then we have chinkaras, etc. They are also constituting major wildlife species in India. Okay, but because of reduction in the forest area, as our forest area they are contracting. Okay, because of reduction in forest area, we have seen an adverse effect on the wildlife. Okay, adverse effect on the wildlife, as we can see the number of several species, they have drastically reduced. Some are endangered, some have come in the list of endangered species, some have come in the list of on the verge of extinction, and some are already extinct. Okay, and this extinction or reduction in the quantity of wildlife is adversely affecting our ecological balance. So to check and reserve this ecological balance, there we need a urgent measure for preserving wildlife. So for this, for the preservation of wildlife, the government of India, they have constituted an Indian board for wildlife, okay, which was constituted in 1952. Okay, so this board, what actually its main purpose was? Its main purpose was to advise the government on the means of conservation and protection of wildlife. Okay, so it suggested the construction of national parks, conservation of wildlife, okay, and zoological gardens according to the need. And it also promoted public awareness regarding the conservation of wildlife. Okay, so this was the main job of Indian Board of Wildlife. Okay, now for the protection of wildlife, a Wildlife Protection Act was adopted. The Wildlife Protection Act was adopted in 1972, and this act was amended in 2002. Okay, this act, it actually governed governed the security and conservation of endangered species, and it prohibited trade of rare and endangered species. Now, along with these acts and policies, there were various projects that were enacted or that were brought into the light for conservation of some specific species. Like first one we have is for Project Tiger. Okay, so Project Tiger was brought about in 1st April 1973. Okay, so on 1st April 1973 this Project Tiger was launched. Under it, 27 tiger reserves were set up in 17 states. Okay, and there we can see a respectable amount of increase in the number of tigers. Like initially, when this tiger reserve was established, so according to the census of 1979, we had 711 tigers in all these 27 tiger reserves. Okay, but according to the census of 2010, we had 1,706 tigers. Okay, so we can see the exponential growth of tigers because of the establishment of these tiger reserves. The primary objective of the Project Tiger is to ensure maintenance of viable population of tigers in India for scientific, economic, aesthetic, cultural, and ecological values, and to preserve for all time the area of biological importance as a national heritage for the benefit, education, and employment of people. Okay, so that's the main objective of Project Tiger. Then the next project that was launched was in was about Project Elephant. Okay, so this Project Elephant, it was a centrally sponsored scheme, and it was launched in on February 1992. Okay, and here the state having free ranging population of wild elephant were given financial, technical, and scientific assistance. Okay, and this assistance was to ensure long-term survival of identified viable population of elephants in their natural habitat. Now for this project, 15 states were considered, and these states were like Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Tripura, Uttarakhand, and West Bengal. Okay, so these states, they were given financial technical assistance in achieving the objective. Okay, the next project was for the project of crocodile breeding. Okay, this project was initiated on April 1, 1974. This project first began on April 1, 1975 in Odisha. A gharial egg was hatched for the first time in the world at Tikkerpada district in Odisha. Okay, so in June 1975, a gharial egg was hatched here. After that, a total of 16 crocodile rearing centers they were developed by 1978. Okay, and out of these 16 centuries, 11 were declared under the project. Okay, sorry, I skipped some point on Project Tiger. So main Project Tiger reserves. Okay, so the main reserves, tiger reserves under Project Tiger were, first one is Corbett National Park, then we have Siriska, Ranthambore, then we have Dudhwa National Park, then Buxar, then we have Periyar, then we have Nagarjun Sagar, Indravati, Pench, Kanha, Bori, Panna. All these national parks, including others, they were actually included in the Project Tiger. Now, along with these projects, a central zoo authority was set up for the proper management of zoological parks. Okay, and the the National Wildlife Action Plan, it was framed for the first time for conservation of wildlife. The first wildlife action plan was in 1983, and after that many action plans have been brought and revised. Okay, now along with these planning, we have various areas reserved for wildlife in their natural habitat. Now these areas, reserved area, are in the form of national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and biosphere reserves. Talking about national park are actually relatively larger land or water area which consist or which contains representative samples and sites of major natural regions, features, scenery, or plants and animal species of national and international significance. Okay, so here we have species of national and international significance. These species, they are actually of special scientific, educational, and recreational interest. Okay, the national park, it covers very large area, and it contains one or several entire ecosystem that are not materially altered by human exploitation and occupation. Okay, national park are protected and managed by the government in the natural or near natural state. Okay, so they are actually wild areas of natural of their natural condition. They are not established, or they are not manufactured, or sorry, they are not established for any special purpose. These are wild areas which are protected. Okay, so if this is a forest, some of the portion of the forest will be protected. Okay, so this area, the protected area, will be a national park. Now visitors are allowed to enter only for some special purposes or in some special conditions, such as for inspirational, educational, cultural, or recreational purposes. Okay, then next we have wildlife sanctuary. Wildlife sanctuary is more or less similar to the national park, which is dedicated to protect wildlife and concerned species. Okay, so a wildlife sanctuary is an area constituted by component authority in which killing and capturing of any form of wildlife is prohibited except with permission or boundaries. Okay, The entry in the wildlife sanctuary is restricted, and it is only allowed under the permission of chief wildlife warden for the research, photography, or tourism, or other lawful businesses. Okay. Now, in these areas, in these wildlife sanctuaries, grazing and movement of livestock is it is restricted, or it is against the security, because we have like some diseases in livestock. Okay, so for safeguarding the wild animals from these diseases, the grazing and movement of livestock, it is not allowed. Okay, then lastly we have biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserve, it is a unique and representative ecosystem of terrestrial and coastal area with international recognition. Okay, so these international recognition are within the framework of UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Program, that is MAB program. And this biosphere, it consists of more or less concentric zones with the core at the center, which is followed by buffer zone, transitional zone, and finally the zone of human encroachment. Okay, so it is like the core zone. This is the core zone. Then we have buffer zone. Then we have transitional zone. Then lastly we have a zone of human encroachment. Okay, so it is like concentric circle area. So these national park, wildlife sanctuaries, and biosphere reserve, if we distinct between them, or we distinguish between them, so the national park, it is for a habitat for a particular wild animal species such as tiger, lion, rhino, etc. While a sanctuary is generally species oriented, such as pitcher plant, general like Great Indian Buster, or citrus plants, etc. And the Biosphere Reserve, it is reserved for a whole ecosystem, that is totality of all forms of life. Okay, the national parks in India, if we look into the size, it may range from 0.04 to 3,162 kilometers. Okay, and the most common average size is 100 to 500 square kilometers. The size of sanctuaries, it is like 0.61 to 7,818 square kilometers, and most common is 100 to 500 square kilometers. Lastly, the biosphere, their size ranges over 5,670 kilometers, square kilometers. Then boundaries of national park and biosphere reserves, they are fixed by legislation. So boundaries of national park and biosphere, they are fixed by legislation, while the boundaries of sanctuaries, they are not sacrosanct. Okay, the national park, they are, there is no biotic interference except for in the buffer zone, and in sanctuaries we have limited biotic interference, and in biosphere reserve we have no biotic interference except for buffer zone. In national park, tourism is permissible. In sanctuaries also tourism is permissible, and in biosphere reserve tourism is not normally permissible. Okay, in national parks the research and scientific management is lacking, along with the same is with the case with wildlife sanctuaries. But in biosphere reserve, this research and scientific management, they are managed. Okay, in national park there is no attention to gene pools or conservation. Same is the case with wildlife sanctuaries, while in Biosphere Reserve, attention is given. Now, talking about distribution of national park, wildlife sanctuaries, and biosphere reserves, we have like 100 national parks, 515 wildlife sanctuaries, and 17 biosphere reserves. Okay, so the major biosphere reserves, they are like, we have Run of Kutch, Kevla Dev, Ghana, Valley of Flower, Nanda Devi, Kanchenjunga, Namdaf, Manas, then we have Kaziranga, then we have Nilgiri, Gulf of Mannar, Kanha, Simlipal. They are the main biosphere reserves. Then next we talk about national park and wildlife sanctuaries. So in Jammu and Kashmir, we have Dachigam, then we have Kishtwar, then we have Hims, high altitude. So these are some of the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries in the Jammu and Kashmir. Then talking about Himachal Pradesh, we have Great Himalayan National Park. Okay, so we have Great Himalayan National Park in Himachal Pradesh. Then next, talking about Uttarakhand. In Uttarakhand, we have Nanda Devi National Park. Then we have Corbett National Park. Okay, then we have Rajaji National Park, Govind Pashu Vihar. Okay, so these are national park and wildlife sanctuaries in Uttarakhand. Now, after Uttarakhand, we have Rajasthan. In Rajasthan, we have Desert National Park, Ranthambore National Park. Then in Gujarat, we have Gir National Park. Okay. In Madhya Pradesh, we have Shivpuri, Panna, Satpura, Pech, Van Vihar, Mahadev. Then we have Bandhavgarh National Parks. Okay. Then going down, we have Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, we have Sanjay Gandhi, Chandoli, then Vansda National Parks. Okay. Then going below, going further towards the south, in Karnataka, we have Dandeli National Park, then we have Bandarghatta, then we have Safari, Anshi, then we have Nagarhole. Okay. These national parks are present. Along with these, in Kerala, we have Silent Valley. Then in Tamil Nadu, we have Mannar, Gunde, and on the boundary of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, we have Bandipur National Park. Okay. Then in Telangana, we have Iktua National Park. So like this, we can find many national park. You can basically refer to Atlas for this, so that you can have clear idea about the national park and wildlife sanctuaries along with biosphere reserves, so that um, it is easy for mapping purpose. Okay, so we have many national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. So these were the national park, wildlife sanctuary, and biosphere reserves area. Now, what are the other measures for conserving our wildlife? So the first method is the ban on hunting and poaching. Okay, so because of hunting and poaching of wild animals for their skin, teeth, okay, and all that, like bones, etc., for aesthetic purposes, for decoration, and all that. So these hunting should be banned. Okay, and severe punishment should be given to the hunters. The next is establishment of more national park sanctuaries, and developing the existing one is really necessary for conserving wildlife. Next is captive breeding of these animals, so that we can have more and more number of species. Sorry, more and more um, number of wild animal of certain species. Okay, and adequate medical facilities should be given for these wild animals, in case if any communicable disease have been spreading in the forest. And for all that, vaccination should be given, and there should be a proper condition given for during the time of breeding or medical facility. The last one is enhancement of public awareness. This is very necessary, because if the public is not aware, then each and every step that were taken previously, they won't be applied practically. Okay, so for conservation of wildlife, we need to enhance public awareness, and if the public is aware, then the local people, they themselves will help in protection of or conservation of wildlife. Okay, so that was about wildlife, distribution of wildlife, and measures to conserve wildlife. So that was all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's lecture. Let's meet in our next class. Till then, take care and have a nice day. Thank you.